Broadcasting live from the WDCE studios out of the University of Richmond. You're listening to 90.1 FM from the most trusted puppet in media. Reporting since Roswell, I'm Sam NewsMan, and this is Saturday morning. I want to thank everyone for joining into the show. 804-289-UR90. 804-289-8790. What an interesting week it was. It was a very interesting week, of course. So hold on just a moment there. Let me see here. Yeah, well, yeah, that's right. It was one of those election weeks. Yeah, everybody knows how those go. So, yeah, so it was, what do you mean? They're still counting votes? What do you mean they're still counting votes? You know, it's interesting. It always boggles my mind that now it takes several days and maybe a week or so to count votes. Hell, American Idol and what is it, America's Got Talent? They just open up the phone lines and they can count all the votes in about 30 minutes. But anyways, it still seems that we're counting votes in Arizona and other places all over the country. And don't listen, not me. Listen, it's not because of me. No, I'm just trying to report on the news. Well, anyways, like I said, they're counting the mail-in ballots. Oh, yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. I'm sure that's exactly right. Anyways, like I said, broadcasting live WDCE 90.1 FM. That's on the radio, like an actual broadcast signal. No, not a podcast, but we are streaming on the internet. You're asking where exactly. Of course, we're streaming live on the SamCam. And where do we have the SamCam? We have the SamCam in two places. We have the SamCam up on Instagram, right over here. Hello, Instagram. And then we also have the SamCam on YouTube. But I do recommend the YouTube feed is a little bit better. The reason why I say that is because I do have a microphone sitting up next to the phone. So when people call in, hopefully you should be able to hear it better. You can't really hear the phone calls that well on the Instagram feed. But we do have some people who have already here, devoid of logic. Jesse Gargiardo. Yes, I probably butchered that. The Terror of Titano and Delmas. Curtis Schultz, of course, the first one in the chat. I do try to read the chat throughout the show. So that way, if people do have questions or something, if I'm able to see it, I'll be able to engage while people are chatting there in the chat. But anyways, like I was saying, interesting week, still counting votes in other places, which just seems a little bit ridiculous to me. But, it's part of the course. Yeah. So it's kind of like when they talk about going to the moon. You know, they say they can no longer go to the moon because they don't have the technology anymore. But even though I hear all the time that they say, they say, well, you have more power in your cell phone than it took them to get to the moon. Yet then they tell you that, oh, but by the way, we can't get to the moon anymore. So that makes any sense. So I guess the technology for the voting is similar to the technology for the moon. It's like, well, you have enough voting technology, you have enough technology in your phone that is more powerful than getting to the moon. But yet today, we don't have the technology to count all the votes at the end of the voting night. Something that we used to be able to do all the time. We used to do it all the time. But I guess we just don't have that technology anymore, which is, like I said, boggles my mind. And do we have all the, I did have the newspaper from the last couple of days. Let's see here. Hold on. Can I get the newspaper? Where is it? Oh, let's see here. Oh, there we go. Get the newspaper here because everybody asks, well, how do I do things around here? I heard a long time ago that every 1 minute of showtime is equivalent to 3 minutes of prep time. Well, I say hogwash. What I do is I just grab the newspaper and start reading it. Well, this is the newspaper from the other day, of course, the Washington Post. You can see it here up on the SamCam. And also up on the Instagram cam. Well, I guess both of them are SamCam. I got SamCam 1 and SamCam 2. Shout out to the Casual Toy Collector. Of course, see you down there in the chat. Casual's going to be calling up a little bit later in the show, probably in the top of the next hour or so. around 10:05 to talk about toys. Oh my goodness, boy, we have a lot to talk about there. But we'll talk, like I said, we'll get to that at the top of next hour. Top of next hour. But this hour, of course, what we want to do, we want to talk a little bit about what it says here on the front page of the Washington Post. Now, this is from the other day, Thursday. And this is when it was still 48 to 48. I believe it's 49 to 48 now. So, yeah, about 10:05. About 10:05, Casual. 10:05, we'll have Casual call in to talk about his. Oh, man. Anyways, back of course to the this headline. The GOP's hope of a red wave crashed down. Everybody heard about that, right? That there was supposed to be some kind of red wave. It was more like a red ripple, more like a red ripple. No red wave. The GOP did not get a whole bunch of votes in terms of being more in charge, having the majority, if you will. But it seems. Well, I mean, that's what I just kept hearing. I just kept hearing about this red wave, and that the red wave, and that there was a mandate, and that the people were upset, and everything was going the pendulum was going to swing the other way. And here we have less less seats that switched over in the last 40 years since JFK, I believe is what it said. So Jesse down there says he played the red wave drinking game during the election results. So that means you didn't drink at all, because there was no red wave. But yeah, so here I was. Shout out, of course, to White Vegeta I see in the chat. And let's see here. Once again, we are broadcasting live on YouTube and on Instagram. But as far as election coverage goes, I was broadcasting live for over 4 hours on election night. Election night coverage, 4 hours. And then I was trying to get on the radio. But for some reason, I'm not sure why, whoever is the producer over there at WRVA didn't want to have a real media puppet join into the conversation. And of course, I understand why. Because if there's anyone that'll suck all the air out of the room, it's just me, and I wouldn't even be in the room. I wouldn't even be there in the room. I would have just been on the phone, and everybody would have been like, well, who is this media savant saying he's a real media puppet? Well, yes, I am a real media puppet. But anyways, I was on hold for a long time, but it didn't really matter, because I saw them the following 2 nights later at Politics and Pints. Yeah, I was there at Politics and Pints. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. It was very interesting being there at Politics and Pints, and done it in 3 years. Hadn't done it in 3 years, but of course, leave it up to me, the official correspondent, the unofficial official correspondent at well, I was there at the beginning. I was there at the very beginning. The first one was over at the Capitol Ale House a couple years back, but this time it was at the Ashland Theater. Like I said, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Want to get back to this, of course. GOP's hopes of a red wave crashed down. Voters across the country delivered a series of decisive victories for abortion rights on Tuesday, in the first nationwide election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade in June. Let's see. After the fall of Roe, abortion rights advocates secure wins with voters. The biggest surprise came in Republican-leaning Kentucky. I believe that that's where TNT Nate resides, deep in the backwoods in the mountains of Kentucky. But Republican-leaning Kentucky, where an anti-abortion amendment was defeated, clearing a potential path for abortion access to be restored in a state with one of the country's most restrictive bans. And so Kentucky was like, no, we want to have abortion back. So, well, let's see here. What else do we have? House and control of the Senate. House and Senate control is in limbo. Key races in Arizona, Nevada, and Georgia are still up for grabs. Democrats continue to celebrate unexpected victories, notching several more wins in competitive House races on Wednesday, as control of the House and Senate remained uncertain. It could take weeks to find which party ends up with more seats in the Senate. Weeks, like I said, weeks. 2 critical Senate races in Arizona and Nevada remain too early to call. And third in Georgia is headed for a December 6th runoff. So that's right. So the December 6th runoff is going to happen between Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker. So, and that'll be December 6th. So I believe I saw last night that Mark Kelly did win the race in Arizona. So I believe that puts them only one vote away from taking the majority in the Senate. Of course, they take majority in the Senate. I believe that it would be Chuck Schumer. I believe Chuck Schumer will be old Chucky Schumer. Oh man, he's clean as a whistle, isn't he? But he'll be the Senate Majority Leader. So of course we'll be listening to him now as he tries to push things through. Pelosi, I don't know if Pelosi is going to be the House Speaker. Seems like the Republicans may win the House. Not really sure if that will be the case or not, but we shall see. We shall see, and of course we'll talk a little bit more about that at the top of the third hour. Here at the 11 o'clock hour, we talk about a little bit more politics, getting into that a little bit more than we had just right now. Of course, it is, like I said, a Saturday morning. Of course, this being the only radio show dedicated to the magic and nostalgia of Saturday morning, hosted by me, a real puppet, the most trusted puppet in media, reporting since Roswell. So, but one of the things, of course, that we always do is that we have theme songs. We play theme songs because, you remember Saturday morning, right? Saturday morning is a time when you used to wake up early before your mom and dad or your parents, try to beat your brothers and your sister. Try to beat your brother and your sister down the stairs. So, of course, you'd run down the stairs and grab a nice sugary bowl of cereal, pour a bunch of milk on there, and then dash into the living room. And then what happens? Of course, then you turn on the television and you watch cartoons for several hours, over and over and over again. Of course, then all of a sudden, I think back in the 70s, and then all through the 80s, there was 3 channels. And by the time I think the end of the 80s, there was 4 channels, but 3 major channels, ABC, CBS, and NBC, would have cartoons. Of course, you didn't really know exactly what to do because there were so many cartoons on. But one of the things that, I know people that would just take a VHS tape and record what was on one channel so they can watch what was on the other. Now, those were the smart kids. Definitely were the smart kids. Shout out to Big M and Daredevil, who are also in the chat over there on the Samcam. Boys, we're also here down on Instagram. I think the Instagram feed's a little bit better. If you do want to come down here, probably eventually need to get rid of this Instagram cam. The only reason why I stick with the Instagram Samcam is because it sends out a little alert saying that, oh, Sam is on the radio now and he's on the video, so you can go ahead and just tune in right now. But I think you can get those same notifications here on YouTube. So once again, like I said, we're here on YouTube. We're also here on the Instagram, as well. But yeah, Saturday morning was amazing. Let's see, Saturday morning, quite an amazing time. Like I said, you'd be sitting there eating your sugary bowl of cereal until mom and dad finally woke up, and then they came down the stairs and kicked you out of the house. They go outside, go pick up a stick and have imagination. Well, of course, like we know that all the grown-ups now no longer have an imagination. All told to grow up, of course, all part of Lord Blanket's plan. For you to just forget your imagination and then just sit there and pay your bills. Pay your bills. Yep. No more imagination, just pay your bills. Shout out to Triple D. Shout out to Triple D in the chat. Like I said, Triple D, we also are here on YouTube as well. Let's see here. Oh yes, of course. Like I said, Saturday morning. So of course, while you were watching your cartoons, eating your sugary bowl of cereal, waiting for your mom and dad to come kick you outside to go grab a stick and pretend that it was a sword or a gun because you were playing cowboys and Indians. Well, now that you're all grown up, of course, you're not sitting there watching cartoons every Saturday morning. Well, if you are, well, good for you. What you should be doing is watching our show, watching this show, watching it here on the Samcams, and then also listening to it. When how can you listen to it? Well, if you're outside of the broadcast area, what you need to do is download the Simple Radio app. Because I don't play the theme songs here on the Samcams. Can't do that. Wouldn't be prudent. Wouldn't be prudent. So, and because of that, what we do is we play them actually on the radio. And how do you listen to the radio feed? Download the simple radio app, search WDCE. You'll see a little spider because we're broadcasting live from the University of Richmond, who won their basketball game last night. They won on Monday and they also won on Friday. So I believe they're 2-0 now, the basketball team. So it might be a good season. See if we can make it into the big dance, fellas. That would be really good. Jesse down there says it's sad that the kids WB isn't around anymore. It's sad that there's no Saturday morning cartoons around anymore. You know the reason why that is was because in 1990 the FCC passed legislation saying that Saturday morning cartoons needed to become more educational. That was in 1990, but it wasn't until about 1996 that they really threw down the hammer. And they said, "Would you take those cartoons off the air and start putting on documentary shows and TV shows?" And then everybody was saying, "Oh, well, yes." And then next thing you know, there was nothing more than, Kangaroo Jack and what was it? The Crocodile Hunter. Rest in peace, Crocodile Hunter. But yeah, so all of a sudden, the cartoons started dying. By about 2000 or so, cartoons were dead all over the place. There was no longer cartoons really on Saturday mornings. But of course, leave it up to me to do my duty and have the ability to play cartoon themes here on Saturday morning. Now, I do have quite a few interesting cartoon themes here on for this morning. What was it? Well, I don't want to give them all away, but I do want to know. I think DeepCut Dave is DeepCut Dave on the line yet? He should be here in just a moment, calling in. I do have a couple of interesting things that I needed DeepCut Dave to talk about before we do it. Yeah, of course. Yeah, Cartoon Network dropped their only Saturday block, and it really died. That's right, Jason. Jason Lee, of course, with the observation. I think I see Daredevil and Roundhead, of course, here as well on the Samcam over here. Let's see here. Cartoon Express was, oh yes, Cartoon Express as well. And that was, I believe, USA. I believe that was on USA. But I do have, like I said, a couple of interesting songs here. And like I said, we're just waiting for DeepCut Dave. Is DeepCut Dave, is he on the phone yet? He's not on the phone. DeepCut Dave, I know that you're out there. So the phone line is open, ready for you to call in, I believe. So waiting just another moment for DeepCut Dave, because like I said, I do have a set list. Of course, this set list was provided by DFS. Are you familiar with DFS? DFS is the one who submitted some of these. And of course, DeepCut Dave did send me one as well. So I believe that. Do we got him on the phone? All right, Dave, are you there? Hey, good morning.
Well, I think so.
Well, yeah. Well, it sounds like you are. So, how are you this morning?
Man, it's like we lose Batman and Gallagher in the span of a week.
You know, I hadn't brought that up yet, but you are absolutely right. The voice of Batman from the Batman the Animated Series passed away. Was it Kevin Conroy? Kevin Conroy, and yes, Gallagher. You're familiar with Gallagher? Gallagher is the comedian that would take watermelons and fruits and whatever and smash them with a hammer. He passed away yesterday as well. So our thoughts and condolences go out to their families. But it has been a rough week. You know, another person who died a couple of weeks or passed away. I don't want to say just died. That sounds a little rude. Someone else who passed away a couple of weeks back was Jules Bass. Did you hear about that, Dave? Jules Bass from Rankin and Bass. He passed away. Yes. Yeah, I did not bring that up a couple of weeks ago. I kept just forgetting about it. Shame on me. Shame on me for not bringing that up. But yes, Jules Bass of Rankin and Bass. You all are familiar with Rankin and Bass. What is it? Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, all those stop motion animation films.
Pretty much every holiday special from like the 60s to the 80s. Right?
Yeah, and then of course then they had Thundercats and Silverhawks, the comic strip. So Jules Bass passed away a couple of weeks back, and like I said, Kevin Conroy and Gallagher as well. Yeah, been a rough week. Been a rough week for celebrities, and but I do have the Batman animated series theme queued up, so that will be coming up here in just a few moments. But Dave, listen, I had someone who submitted a couple of cartoon themes and some theme songs. And one of the ones that caught my attention that I knew that you could possibly give us some more intel about, some deep cut intel, was a little show called The World of David the Gnome. Familiar with that one, correct?
Yes, I am.
So, could you give the listeners just a little bit of a history lesson about the world of David the Gnome?
The cartoon aired here in the U.S. in 1988. It's funny. It was only 26 episodes. It ran from 1988 to 1995.
28 episodes from 1988 to 1995.
26 episodes.
26 episodes. So what do they do? Like about 3 a year or something like that?
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow. No, that's wow. They really putting the pedal to the metal with that one. It seemed like, right?
Yeah. Well, it's fun. Well, it debuted in Spain in 1985, and that over there it only ran for a year.
Oh, how many episodes was that one?
26.
Oh, so it was 26. So they just took the 26 from across the pond and just broke it down into, I guess, about what, 7 years here in the States?
Pretty much, yeah.
That's very interesting. Had no clue about that. But
It
what?
was actually based on a book. It came out in 1976 called Gnomes
Mm-hmm.
by, and I apologize, I am probably going to butcher both these names, Will Hugian and Rian Portetic.
Well, listen, hey, you probably did a better job than I could saying those names. I butcher names all the time. It's terrible. Yeah. So, and what was the show about? You said it was based on a book, but what was the show about?
Also before I forget, there was also a TV special that aired on CBS in 1980 called Gnomes. That was the book.
Mm-hmm.
And funny enough, that has never been released. I don't think that's been released to any media, no VHS or even DVD.
Now, I think David the Know, I have a listener down here in the chat, Resonate. That's actually TNT Nate. Probably will call in a little bit later. He was saying that he thought that David the Gnome was it on Nickelodeon? Is that when it was?
Yes,
It was on Nickelodeon. Good job, Nate. Good job, Nate, of course. So it was on Nickelodeon, and definitely he said one of his favorites. But only 26 episodes. 26 episodes, and you said, and so what was the premise again? It was just about gnomes, and that's it.
Well, yeah, the book was written as sort of like an in-universe thing. It's like, oh, the gnomes are real, and I've cataloged, the different types of gnomes, their habits, charming little book. And the TV show followed suit. We followed, David the Gnome. He's a doctor living out in the woods, and we sort of, nice slice of life, what he does day by day.
Oh yeah, so taking care of the gnomes, one gnome at a time.
Most of the gnomes and the animals, yeah.
Oh, so he's one of those guys. So he took care of the animals too. Yeah. So he was
also a therapist.
He was a therapist. He was a vet and a therapist. Look at this. So I guess
he was a therapist to the animals.
he was a therapist. So he didn't. So the animals still had to go to a traditional vet. But if they were having some mental.
They went to him too.
Oh, okay. So he was a vet and a therapist. Well, listen to that. David the Gnome just doing everything. Putting himself out there. So what a nice guy. what an amazing nice guy.
It was just a cute little show.
Now, another show that you brought up, you sent me an email yesterday, and it was Sergeant Savage and his Screaming Eagles. 1994, I believe, is the date that I have here in front of me. Now, I'll be honest, I have no idea what this is, which is another reason why I wanted you to call in. So you can tell us about this one, because this is one that you highlighted specifically. Talk to us about Sergeant Savage and his Screaming Eagles.
So we go from David the Gnome to Sergeant Savage. I mean, that's just...
Well, absolutely. I mean, why wouldn't we?
Exactly. Well, Sergeant Savage, it's funny and kind of melancholy in a way. It was supposed to be a big return to form for G.I. Joe.
Was it a GI Joe spinoff?
Well, yeah. Well, it was also supposed to be Sunbow's big return to GI Joe after Deke.
Oh, okay, I see. So it was produced by Sunbow.
I believe it was. Yes.
Okay, but it's Sergeant Savage and his Scream, but it wasn't GI Joe directly though, was it? It was.
Well. Here's the thing. The backstory. Sergeant Savage was like the number one soldier in Uncle Sam's army during World War II. Well, he gets captured by the Axis, betrayed by someone in his unit, actually, and he gets put in. He's frozen, cryo sleep.
Hmm.
Then he gets thawed out in the 90s, and he's found by the GI Joe team. As a pilot, they only have a Hawk and Lady J.
So some of the characters did. So a few characters did bleed over to Sergeant Savage.
Yes, in the pilot they had a Hawk, Lady J, and a Cobra Commander.
Oh, okay, I got you. And then so what exactly? How many episodes was this one?
One.
Just one. So they had the pilot, and that was it.
Yeah, and the pilot, I don't think it was ever, it never made it to air. They released the VHS tape with one of the figures.
Oh, okay. So they had a VHS tape with the pilot with the figure, and that was it. Well, man, way to knock that out of the park, Sunbow. So is there do you remember what station that it came on? Was it or did it or was it
My understanding is that it never aired on any
it
TV.
never aired at all?
No, just went straight to VHS.
Oh well, that's the death of any type of series if it just went straight to VHS. Oh my goodness. Oh man. So nothing else ever came up out of that. Sunbow, I guess, thought they had something. They didn't have nothing. It was just one episode. They released a VHS tape with a figure. Do you have that figure?
Somewhere, I'm sure.
Somewhere, sure, yeah. It's in a bin somewhere. A bin in the attic, or maybe in the garage. But do you remember what figure that it was?
It was, I think it was Commando Sergeant Savage.
Gotcha. So listen, I have someone here in the chat. They said the GI Joe Club figure line added Savage, and let's see here. Iron Claw was the villain.
Well, that was the team. The main bad guy, I can't remember, if it was like Baron Blitzkrieg or just Blitzkrieger. Yeah, the big reveal we find out at the end. Turns out the main bad guy that's leading Iron Claw is, wait for it, is actually Sergeant Savage's former second in command, Krieger.
Yeah, Krieger. So
he hasn't aged since 1940s.
well, man, you know what? I'm telling you what. If you get the right lotion, if you get the right lotion, those wrinkles will never will never come up. You know what I mean? So it's just a matter about what.
Presumably, if the line had continued, we would see more. But they would carry Sergeant Savage over to GI Joe Extreme.
Okay, so GI Joe Extreme.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, we'll probably play some GI Joe Extreme, not next week, but the week after that, because next week you and I will be where? Retro Toy Con. That's right, Retro Toy Con next weekend in Greenville, South Carolina. I'll be showing up on Friday, getting a lay of the land, and we'll definitely be interviewing people who are lined up, waiting to get in early on Saturday morning. So I'm sure that I'll see you there. Not sure. What time do you plan on getting there, Dave?
Well, Saturday for sure. As for the time, man, we'll see.
All right. Well, I'm sure that you'll be able to see me running around, of course, because you can't miss me. The only real media puppet that goes to these conventions and these events. But I'll definitely be there. Looking forward to seeing you. And of course, giving you an interview and talking about Saturday morning cartoons while it is Saturday morning, and we're surrounded by retro toys. I'm really looking forward to it, Dave. And of course, I want to thank you for calling in and giving us a little bit of intel about David the Gnome and Sergeant Savage. Dave, you have a wonderful rest of the weekend, and I will see you next week.
Okay.
Thank you so much for calling in. Like I said, have a good one, Dave. So once again, that was DeepCut Dave with the education for some of the songs that maybe you are not familiar with. And of course, like I said, this next segment of Cartoon Themes is brought to you by DFS. Now, I did have a bunch more lined up, but of course, we can always kind of go a little bit over here. This first segment with Dave, of course, giving us the intel. Wouldn't want to have it any other way. Rather go over and get my education on a Saturday morning from DeepCut Dave than just play a bunch of songs ad nauseum for a while. So, but we do have a couple of songs here. We're going to play those. And we will be back on the other side of the break at the top of the hour with the Casual Toy Collector. The Casual Toy Collector calling in about the Hasbro selfie series and just how amazing, an amazing job they are. Hold on, wait a minute. I have somebody else calling in. I can't take the phone call right now. So whoever's calling in right now, going to have to call back in just a few moments because I can't pick up the phone. Have a hard break coming up here. So got to go. And we will be back, like I said, at the top of next hour. So whoever's calling in now, just hold your horses and we'll get to the phone lines at the top of next hour. So once again, download the simple radio app, search WDCE to listen to these theme songs here on the only radio show dedicated to the magic of Saturday morning, hosted by me, a real puppet, from the most trusted puppet in media. Reporting since Roswell, I'm Sam Newsman, and this is Saturday Morning.